Well, it's not quite straight, but let's just keep it that way. Okay, welcome back, viewer, welcome back. This is a video I meant to do the other day instead of doing the one about the King of the North. Oh yeah. Sorry, this is the video which is sort of follows up on the video that I did in relation to our Jehovah's Witnesses fascinated with demons. And this is the spin, the other side. Because obviously, I believe not only are they fascinated with demons, but also they are fascinated with angels as well. Because they like to see things that happen in their lives and say, well, there's obviously been direction or intervention by the angels. They don't like to think that they're just alone on this planet, like most of us do, trying to get our way through, surviving to the next day. So, yeah. So anyway, in my many years when I was a witness, it became obvious to me that in relation to things witnessy worldwide, especially relating to experiences that happened in the preaching work, that there was this concept of things happening coincidentally. If you're a Jehovah's Witness, it doesn't happen. Nothing happens coincidentally if you're a Jehovah's Witness, because the reason why they say this is because, of course, God is directing your organisation. So anything that happens within that organisation, especially relating to the preaching work or even individual experiences on the preaching work, has to be spirit or directed by God. And of course, He uses when it needs things to, when it needs a mover and shaker, He uses an angel. And quite often, I heard experiences of things that happened in relation to witnesses when they were out witnessing, and it was proof, absolute proof, tangible proof of angelic direction. Not a coincidence, angelic direction. And by confirming it was angelic direction, this then confirmed to everybody listening to this story, that clearly God is with this organisation and only with this organisation. So what I'm going to attempt to do is I'm going to go back to a story that I heard a long time ago. It's not an urban myth, an urban legend, and it is one that I heard, and it's just a nothing story. It really is a bog standard nothing story. If you haven't heard this particular story, you would have heard stories similar like it. Wherever you are in the world, if you were a witness, or if you listen to jw.org or whatever it is, you would have heard this story, the magazines, the channel they use now, or conventions or books or whatever, similar stories like to this. So I'm going to give you that story. But more importantly, instead of just leaving it there, I'm going to then try and analyse logically if there really was an angel involved in what happened in this story, how the angel have had to overcome so many variables to ensure that the story ended the way it was meant to happen. Now, I'm also going to give an example of a coincidence, and then at the end of the day, you can then match up my story of quite an amazing coincidence against this other story and just say, what, if you're looking at stories, which one really had the big wow factor, which one really would have your head scratching. But anyway, I'll crack on with my coincidental story. It is purely coincidental, but it is when all of us have these every day, all of us ensuring in our lives, we have things that happen in our lives, and sometimes when coincidences do happen, we go, ooh, that's a little bit spooky, that coincidence. But all it is a coincidence. But I'm going to give you this story. Anyway, bear with me. So what happened was, we were going over several years ago, my family, that's the three of us, not the dog, well, dog's dead now, we were going over to a house swap in Canada. We were swapping with a family who we never met before, we found on the website, in Montreal. But we were flying into Toronto, which when you look at the map, it looks quite near it until you actually do the drive and you find out it's about 5 hours. So we were flying into Toronto. Now Toronto, the good thing about flying into Toronto, we're going to spend a few days in Toronto. We were going to stay at a place which is very close to the Niagara Falls. Always been on my bucket list, must go to the Niagara Falls. So one particular day prior to our Canadian visit, we are in a pub in Dumfries. We're outside the pub. There's tables and chairs and it's a summer's day and we're the only people there. Behind us in the pub is a conservatory where the daughter of the owner of the pub is jamming with two other acoustic guitarists and somebody's got a fiddle. She may be playing the fiddle or the violin, I'm not too sure. Somebody had a violin, I think it was her. And so we're talking, I'm talking to my nephew at the time about our trip to Canada. We're going about Canada, you're going to go to the Niagara Falls. And meanwhile, the jamming in the background, bit of acoustic jam, repeating the same song and then again and again. Got a bit wearing eventually, but a bit like my voice. It got a little bit wearing. I can't remember which song it is now, but this isn't the big bit. So the next thing is I'm trying to explain to my nephew how we're going to go to the Niagara Falls and we're going to go down one of these tunnels. We're going to go down to the tunnel because I'd heard that at Niagara Falls you can go down a particular tunnel and you can be right there with the falls coming over you. And my only other image of something similar to this happening is in a film called The Last of the Mohicans, Daniel Day-Lewis, where he escapes from this British fort after being attacked, and he leads his squad through a little trail, and he ends up behind a waterfall. So they're all backs against this, cliff thing. Water's coming over, and that's how I imagined how this cave would be at the Niagara Falls. Well, actually, when we actually got there, it was nothing like it. Literally, it was a cave down at the bottom. You stood there, and we weren't behind the falls. In fact, this cave doesn't exist. But in my ignorance, I thought that there was a ledge that went round the back of Niagara Falls, and you could stand there and watch it come over the top. So while I'm telling this, thinking about telling this story about going to the Niagara Falls, two of the people who are in the next door conservatory are in the garden having a fag. Right, so there's only two left. As I'm telling this story to my nephew, I said to him, look, so he could picture this. It says, have you ever seen the film The Last of the Mohicans? And I kid you not, those words are not left my lips when next door, all of a sudden, the two people who are remaining started playing the theme music to, yes, you've guessed it, the film The Last of the Mohicans. Doing the whole thing. And next thing I'm talking to him and I just stopped. I went, oh my God, do you know what they're playing there? They're playing the theme music to The Last of the Mohicans. It was just like, what are the chances? What are the chances at the very moment I'm speaking to my nephew about The Last of the Mohicans, that all of a sudden the people next door are playing to the theme music to The Last of the Mohicans. So, after we got over this massive coincidence, I went to get another drink. I needed another drink after that one. And as I went in, I went in the conservatory and there was still just the two people had stopped playing this time. And I said to the girl, I said, you're not going to believe this amazing coincidence just happened there. I said, I was just talking to my nephew about The Last of the Mohicans and you started playing the theme tune. And she says, well, you're not going to believe this either. This is a big coincidence to us as well. Because while this is our first practice session ever, and while the other two were out, I just said to the guitarist or the fiddle player, says, what else can you play? What else do you like playing? And he said, I like playing the theme music to The Last Mohicans. And she says, oh my God, what a coincidence. So do I. And it was the first time they'd ever played it. So in other words, just think about all the variables that could have happened, which never happened, to ensure that at the very moment I said that they started playing that. But at the end of the day is nobody was controlling all those variables. There wasn't some sort of otherworldly thing going on here that people were making sure that in days or months in advance or years past that both of them had practiced the theme music to The Last Mohicans and engineered the fact that they'd all be together in this conservatory, that the other two would go for fag smoke at the very time that some complete strangers alls would appear in the outside having a drink, and that we'd then suddenly was engineering our visit to Canada, and that I started talking to him about this film. Do you see what I mean here? It's just, you know, all the variables are so massive that nobody could control that. It's just what you call a massive coincidence, which, well, two coincidences there. But you put a similar story like that based on something that happens in the preaching work with Jehovah's Witnesses, and you can be assured that everybody pounces on it as being angelic direction. So here's the story. The story goes something like this. There is this brother, this poor pioneering brother, is out on the work one day, and it's particularly a cold day. Now I can't remember what happened. Is either he was just wearing a suit, or he was wearing a coat which had seen better days. But he was basically, what he was wearing was not fit for purpose. He goes to a door, and a woman enters the door, and she says, "Oh my God, son," well, not those words. She says, "Oh my goodness, son, you look really cold there. You know what? My husband passed away last year, and you look round about the same size as him. In fact, for some reason I've held on to his coat. Don't ask me why. I've just thought, no, I can't part with it. But I think I'd like to give you the coat." So she goes away. She's not interested in the truth. She doesn't take the truth. There's no like big Bible study and she becomes a convert. So she goes away. She brings the coat. The poor pioneer puts on the coat. It's an absolute perfect fit. And the woman he says, you know, the pioneer goes, "Look, you know, it's an expensive coat." Says, I haven't got any money. I can't pay you for it. And she says, I want you to have it. I want you to have it. So of course, then the brother walks away. He's now warm. He can now complete the rest of the day's ministry because he's not freezing to death or looking blue. And that encourages him because he thinks Jehovah has looked after me in this way. The angel has guided me to this house to ensure that I can complete not only today's ministry but the rest of the ministry in this particular season. And maybe the coat's good enough to last him for another 4 or 5 years, who knows. End of story. Everybody claps. And all you get from the speaker, "Isn't that wonderful, brothers and sisters, how Jehovah looks after his servants, especially the pioneers, how he makes sure that they don't want for anything." And everybody thinks, well, yeah, that's absolutely true. That's confirmation yet again to me that Jehovah is backing this organisation and ensures that he looks after people who are trying to put the service first. He's promised he'll do that. This is an example of that. And at no point does anybody sit back and think of the variables that an angel would have had to overcome to ensure that this brother on this particular day ended up chapping that particular house. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's crack on. So 1 year before this event happened, the angel's looking at this poor brother thinking, you know what, see that coat that pioneer's wearing? There's no way that's going to make last next year. And if he hasn't got a warm coat this time next year, potentially he's going to get that deflated or disheartened that he may stop the preaching work. And I have to encourage him and make sure he carries on doing this important preaching work, because as we know, Armageddon it's just round the corner. So anyway, I'm going to have to hunt down now and source him a coat. So the angel looks around in the territory, and there's the coat. He has found an expensive warm coat which available in the territory that the brother works. The only problem is the guy who owns the coat is still alive. He is still with us. So the angel thinks, oh, God, that's a perfect coat for the brother. Fits him like a glove. But the guy who owns it's still alive. Well, the guy's getting on. He's getting on in years now, advancing years. If Armageddon does come tomorrow, he's probably going to die and he won't get a resurrection. Do you know what? The loving thing would be if, I've done this many, many times in the past. I'm going to arrange for this guy to die in his sleep. And then, God willing, he may get a resurrection. Be included in the unrighteous, not the righteous. And then his coat's going to be available. So the first thing the angel has to do is ensure this guy dies an untimely death. So the guy dies, coat available. The problem is, the widow, Mrs. Widow, is getting rid over the next 12 months. She's going to get rid of all her husband's gear. It's all going. And the angel has to make sure that she doesn't get rid of the coat, because the angel wants to make sure that Brother Coatless gets the coat from Mrs. Widow. So the angel has to make sure, has to time and time again, when she's looking at stuff to chuck out, that all of a sudden it's put into her mind, don't throw out the coat, don't throw out the coat. Unfortunately, she has a son, and the son's about the same build as Mrs. Widow's deceased husband. She's umming and ahhing. Should I give this coat to my son? I'm sure my husband will like the coat. So the angel's thinking, oh my God, how can I overcome this one? I know what I'll do. I'll put it into the son's mind to enter a non-salad diet for a year. For a year now, all he's going to be asking is for Big Mac and fries. He's going to be supersized every day. So that, maybe nearly 12 months on, when there's just the coat left, and the woman's thinking of finally giving it away because it's getting into that time of the year, it's a little bit chilly. She said to son, you know what, son? If only you weren't so massive, I'd give you your father's coat. I've held on to it for so long now, but for some reason you've been dodging a salad for 12 months now, and it just won't fit you. So I'm just don't know what to do with this coat yet. I've been thinking of keeping it for somebody, but it ain't you, fatty. So of course the angel now has overcome that. She's still got the coat. Now the angel's got to arrange for Brother Coatless to get the coat from Mrs. Widow. So on that particular day, when the angel's looking at this territory, seeing that he's checking the territory over the ensuing, no, we don't want the brother to go there in the summer, no use. Spring, no, it could be the winter, it's going to be an unusually cold day. He's watching the territory cards getting distributed and thinks it's got to be a day. It's got to be a day. It's going to be unusually cold. And I've got to narrow down the possibilities that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to go on the work that morning. And maybe Brother Coatless won't shut that door. If there's a lot of people at that morning, somebody else will go to that door who's got a lovely big warm coat, or maybe somebody's massive, or somebody's really, really small, or somebody's elderly. It's got to be Brother Coatless. So what can I do? So the angel arranges that particular day, when the guy's doing the territory that morning, is telling everybody where to go. He makes sure he sort of tinkers with the weather, so it's an unusually cold day that morning. So all the normal brothers and sisters who go out to just do their bit of chapping their doors and basically a bit of gossiping, and then going for a coffee and a cake afterwards, don't turn up. They look out and go, my God, it's freezing today. You'd have to be a poor pioneer to go out on a day like today. I'm not going to go out. But unfortunately, the brother Hardy and Sister Hardy, who will go out no matter what the weather's like, because they're not pioneers, but they always go out and support their group effort in the morning. So the angel ensures that their car doesn't start. So that morning they're in the car, car, and the brother's going, goodness sake, it's been working fine. Why is it not working today? Because the angels tinkered with the car. So that day it doesn't start. So on the territory that morning is the guy giving out the territory and Brother Coatless. Now the guy giving out the territory notices it's very, very cold and just says to Brother Coatless, right, Brother Coatless, you're going to do this street today because I'm off with my wife to do one of those phantom return visits. You know the ones, the phantom return visits. Oh, I've got a few return visits to do, Very good. I know where that return visit is. It's returning back to your house to have another coffee and cake, because it's not imperative that you do the territory. It's just imperative that you turn up that day, give the poor pioneer the territory, and then you're off on your way. I'll see you later. So, of course, well done. The angel's doing well. He's tinkered with the weather. It's unusually cold. He's froze up this other guy's car. The people going to work have decided to go home. There's only this poor pioneer now who's going to do this street. But shock, horror. Where Mrs. Widow is located is a few doors on. It's not the beginning of the street. And the fourth house down, the angels already recognise that there is somebody there who genuinely wants the truth. But he has to make sure that Brother Coatless gets the coat from Mrs. Widow. So whatever happens today is Brother Coatless cannot find anybody in at this door, otherwise he'll never ever reach his destiny to get this coat, which this angel has been working so hard at to ensure that this brother gets his coat. So the day before, the person who would have invited the brother in for a chat and to embrace the truth and to become a baptized Jehovah's Witness, they go out to do a bit of shopping. And the angel had ensured that when she wrote down all the necessary things that she needed for the shopping, they'd left out, one biggie, milk. Everybody needs milk because we always have it on our cocoa, tea, coffee, cereal, whatever, milk. And so that particular morning, the morning when she would have been ready to embrace the truth, when Brother Coatless is going to come to her door, the woman gets up to make herself a cup of coffee, goes, "Oh, bugger me. How did I forget the milk? It was the first thing I was thinking of, milk." Because angels are cunning that way, ensured that this woman forgot to put milk on the shopping list. So that morning, the woman who would have taken the truth has gone back into the town to get some milk. So Brother Coatless, chap the door, nobody in. So now finally, after a year in ensuring that overcoming all these different variables, these two are going to finally meet. Destiny is going to be finally confirmed, this coat and Brother Coatless. But the angel have forgotten one thing to bear in consideration. That Mrs. Widow had started joining the local bingo group because she was missing the company of her husband. And he never thought about it. Never factored this in. And this particular day is the morning that she always went to bingo with her pals. Quick thinking by the angel that morning, he ensured that there was an electrical fault in the bingo hall and the whole place burnt down. And so the woman was about to go to the bingo. She got a phone call that morning. "Hello? Yeah? What? Fire? No chance. What about the sprinklers? Didn't they work either? No? Oh, shit." Puts the phone down. So she never gets to the bingo. And then the brother chaps the door. Honestly, the work that went into ensuring that brother got that coat by this angel, the angel deserved another pat on the back for all the things he had to go through to overcome all the variables to ensure that this brother got this coat. The thing about it is that you look at the extraordinary lengths that an angel, and these are just a few of the variables. I'm sure there's many others which I haven't even factored in here. But if we think about it, How come the angel wasn't available to ensure that morning that a brother and sister and their family who were driving in a car never got delayed by 1 minute? If their car had been delayed 1 minute going up that morning, they wouldn't have skidded on ice because the angel had made sure it was particularly cold that morning and crashed into a lorry. If they'd been delayed by 1 minute, they would have just not crashed into a lorry and would have survived. And unfortunately, the whole family of witnesses who could have gone on to go to Bethel, been pioneers, special pioneers, who knows what, were wiped out because an angel that morning hadn't delayed their car by 60 seconds because he was too busy that morning ensuring that a bingo hall burnt down. And you see, this is where this whole thing doesn't work out, because when the witness is saying, oh, Jehovah looks after us, he cares for us, provides us, that example of the brother getting the warm coat to ensure that he could continue on the pioneering service. Okay, if you really, if an angel can go to all these extraordinary lengths to ensure that that angel gets the coat, why, oh why, couldn't another angel, or just that angel, just spared a little bit of thought by looking ahead and thinking, my God, it's going to be cold, family, car crash, total wipeout? Why weren't they protecting them? Why could the angel in a year in advance make sure that this brother ends up with his coat? Why can he just spend 60 seconds just doing that? This is where this doesn't work out. This is where, when you logically think of these things, you have to think to yourself, well, yeah, it doesn't work out. Surely when things like that happen in the ministry, it is just a coincidence. But unfortunately, what the witnesses do, they try to build on something that we've done for years and years and years as humans, as our race, is that we try to always we always try to read things into situations. We always try to look at things and think that it means something. I had a dream last night and I dreamt I choked on a banana. Things like that. They always try to look at weird dreams and try to interpret that somehow you're getting signs. Or you may just see something a bit unusual, that, that means today. Or it's just what we've done for hundreds and thousands of years, because we can't bear to imagine that we are just here. And that if everything that we do during the day, everything that happens, is basically up to us that day, unless somebody, unless our car goes on ice or we hit a lorry. We decide mostly what we're going to do that day. Our destiny is usually always our own. It's always our own. There's only one thing we can't dodge, is that we're all going to die. And just be thankful that we're living in a place that we can go into the fridge and decide what we're going to eat that day, when other people in poor countries don't have that luxury. So I don't think about people say, what's for you won't go past you. Bollocks. And people read into so many different things. Oh, this is all pointing to, this is all signs. It's a lot of nonsense. Just accept, everybody, that we are here, and let's just hopefully that we have long life and we can assume and do, as much as we can in that life. But there isn't anybody looking after, guiding our life, making sure, that things happen the way they're supposed to do. Things happen, not the way they're supposed to do, because they just happen. And all of us can be affected by time and unforeseen occurrences. And along the way, we have these wonderful things called coincidences, which, when a coincidence happens, just embrace it as just being, oh my goodness, that's a little bit odd, isn't it? But just think of it as just being a coincidence. And the sooner that Jehovah's Witnesses do the same as well, then they'll maybe think less that, in fact, maybe they are being looked after. Maybe there is somebody watching their back. There's nobody watching their back at all. Things just happen the way they happen, and that's it. Anyway, that's my my take on Jehovah's Witnesses and why they do not believe in coincidences, and giving my example of one major coincidence. And I actually believe that my story of that coincidence of the theme music getting played to Last Americans is more of a story than that guy getting a coat was ever. Anyway, catch you later. Bye-bye.